Okay, let's start just with sitting comfortably, however that is for you. Trying to have both feet down on the floor. Sitting up, and you can be a little bit forward in your chair so that you can just tilt your pelvis forwards a little bit, taking some of your weight into your feet, then that's good, but we'll come back to that if it's not comfortable for you. A couple of slow, gentle breaths and rubbing your hands together. Happy to loosen your jaw a little bit. And start to work up over your head and neck. Down to one shoulder and your arm. The other side. And then on to the upper part of the chest. Into your belly. Then finishing on your legs. Your hands just rest on your legs. And once again, bringing your attention back to your posture. Again, we're just feeling that your principal support obviously is going to come to the chair and via your hips. So just try and let your hips sink into the chair a little bit. But again, if you can be a little bit forwards, up to 30% of your weight, your feet and your legs, for just that little bit of pressure in the soles of your feet. Sort of just pointing you at the way that your legs are also part of what supports the whole of your body. Then your back and spine supporting the front of your body. This is where I think this posture can get quite difficult, because it's often not the case that this happens. We often tend to sort of pull our belly in, look for really tight muscles in there, the belly and the solar plexus and the chest. And what we're trying to do here is to actually release a little bit in those big muscles. And that means that things like the muscles between the vertebrae, there's various muscles in the back that are really there for support, what's sometimes referred to as deep core muscles. But quite often when we sort of put the belly in and we work on what people think of as the core, it's not these deep core muscles that are actually being exercised. So we want to try and again release the muscles that are obvious to us in the front of the body. And that means that other muscles are beginning to work, whereas they may not have been before. And this is where the posture can become uncomfortable after a while, because like doing anything with a muscle that it hasn't done for a while, it will get to a point where it can tire and so on and so forth. But generally, these postural muscles have a much longer sort of endurance. It's one of the things that I think is cultivated in the very soft, slow movements that we make in Tai Chi. And as the name suggests, they're crucial for maintaining structure, maintaining posture. We want all the soft tissue of the body to engage, and that includes not just muscle but fascia as well, tendons and ligaments. We also want to feel that the bones, our skeletons, our spine, our rib cage, for instance, are part of what actually helps to support and sustain our posture and our movement. Sometimes it's said that in Tai Chi, we actually begin to make use of the postural muscles for movement. And also things like fascia. Fascia is not inert as used to be thought, but has a certain elasticity to it as well. So the effort of maintaining the posture, the effort of moving is distributed more through the body. And this means there's less strain on any one part of the body. And one of the ways that I would describe the feeling of this posture is that it's very spacious. It's like, you know, if you're wearing a new pair of shoes, when you take them off, you can wiggle your toes around because the shoes are generally quite stiff, personally. So on and so forth. So this is the quality of the posture that we're trying to sustain as we start to move. And we want to feel it's very integrated. So that, for instance, if I raise up an arm, then obviously I'm going to be using biceps, triceps, trapezius at the back, so on and so forth, these paired muscles. But at the same time, as I do this, there's a feeling of extension, we could say perhaps, for instance, in the fascial layers. So when I go to lower my arm, that fascial layer contracting contributes to the movement. And it's just a crude example. But we engage more of the body in all of the functions. So beginning to just turn your head a little bit. With this, what starts to become apparent to us is that there's a connected movement, a flow of movement. And so this adjustment of our posture, this integration of our whole body leads us into this feeling, the sense of movement, a sense of energy flowing through the body. Shoulders. Nice steady movement. And trying to bring a sense of intention to all the movements. So one of the images that we often use is that we're moving through water. And if you were doing this in water, you would have to put some effort, not only into pushing your arms forwards and up, but actually to bring them back and down as well. Going forwards. And as you do this, obviously muscles in and around shoulders, tops of the arms, top of the back, chest are being used, but also you can feel movement further down your back, your sides, and in the front of you. And then bringing your hands down and then rotating. As we become more conversant with all these changes within the body, the rhythm of movement, extension, contraction, and so on and so forth, they become much more consciously, deliberately intentional. So we've drawn our attention into our body. That helps us to gather, to quieten our thoughts. Put your hands up, rotating your arms. And that's a good thing, obviously, to get that sense of calmness, stillness. But from that point of a gathered attention, we're able to see more, experience more of what's going on within the body. We go back the other way. And to bring a sense of intentionality. Questions. Easing forwards and push. As you go forward, your hips are sinking back and your head is going forwards. So it's not a massive leap from that to realize that actually your spine is being pulled out as you go forwards, and then it contracts as you go back. Very gently, it's not a big movement, but that gathered attention can begin to just focus on that a little bit. When we do that, the postural muscles between the vertebrae, then I always forget, but they then nevertheless extend out and drawn out. And a muscle that's drawn out contracts. So coming upright involves our legs, of course, a pull from the hips is going to involve the big mobilizing muscles of the upper body, naturally enough. But also there's going to be these more subtle elements. And what you may find after a while is that by bringing your attention to those, it seems to amplify. It's an interesting process. I sometimes liken it to being in a crowded room with lots of people talking. And if you focus your attention on a particular conversation or particular person, then what's being said comes out of the background. So we begin to appreciate that we can bring a conscious intentionality to this integrated movement that involves more than just one part of the body. Turning slightly so your weight goes towards one leg. In doing that, of course, we bring an influence on the movement, the flow, the energy. And that can reflect back. The presence of that flow can actually, again, help to just soothe the mind, body, in another way. And that soothing quality, again, helps with this awareness and the integrated movement. And then, so notice how your body's moving. So, for instance, one thing that I've begun to notice is an ongoing process. As I go forwards, just here, the lower part of the back going down into the buttocks. There's an extension here, and then coming back. And then the extension is on the other side, and as I come back, various things are going on, but there's a contraction there. In a group of muscles that a lot of which are postural muscles rather than mobilizing muscles. Go the other way. But by focusing on them, I can also start to use less of other muscles. I don't need to pull my belly in, for instance, just to come upright. I don't need to tighten in my shoulders to come up. So coming back to, and then stepping out, heel, ball of the foot, gently press in, planting the foot. Once you've established that connection to the ground through the planting, move your weight in. And then the other side. and then transfer your weight. And from side to side. Again, just noticing the subtle changes in your body, noticing if there's any straining. But often our first way into this awareness that I'm talking about is an awareness that it's not happening in the way that we want it to, that there's a block, a tightening, stiffening up. And then, so particularly those of you more familiar with the exercises, this is one of the ongoing, if you like, processes that we want to bring into the practice of the exercises. Obviously, the better you know a movement, the more familiar you are with it, and also whether you feel comfortable with that movement. That all of that's going to influence whether you're actually able to bring this gathered attention in. So your hands drop down. Once again, turn your hands palm forwards. This time, moving your weight forwards as you rotate your arms. Third folds its weight. So just to offer a clue to the sort of things that we might become aware of. And this is not meant to be definitive. This is, in a sense, me reporting back to you on my experience at the moment. But from here, as I go forward, there's a general sense of an expansion through the front of my body. I can feel that in my belly, in my chest. I can sort of imagine it coming up from my feet. And if, for instance, I imagine, say, from my forehead down to my feet, there's a couple of elastic bands going down to my toes. Then as I come back, those elastic bands would extend out. And then they'd contract. And then I can begin to feel the same thing through the back of my body, down my back as I go forwards. I can feel an extension, my hamstrings, for instance, to the extent of my calf muscles. And even as I talk about this, I'm becoming more aware that, oh, the calf muscles are working. Oh, there's something happening in the ankle. Not forgetting this underlying flow, this sense of the energy. And change into fisherman cast net. The arms swing through, but when we get to about here, you want to get a sense of pushing the arms away, not up, not lifting them up. Best if I just do this with one hand, carry on with both hands. So imagine you're doing this in water and you're just trying to gently push your arms through the water. It will swing up, but I'm not trying to lift that. Another image might be from my hip to my wrist this time. There's that elastic band. The image of water is a good one though, because we know instinctively and experientially that if we stiffen up, try and move through water, it gets to be very hard work. We meet more and more resistance. So the way to work with the resistance of water is to encourage this sense of releasing and flowing. It's a really good way of conditioning those qualities. And then imagining the ball underneath your arms as you come back, you're pulling the ball in. As your arms will roll over. You may find that you've just habitually started to lift your arms, but that would take them off the ball. So actually, initially, what we feel here is not a lifting of the arms, but a pulling. So the ball will resist in the movement between an extension down the arms and the fingers, which then contracts. Once again, once we have established that, we get a sense of what else is going on within the body, including, once again, that sense of an expansion upwards. And that will tend to move our arms more, and they will come up. We could describe the movements of the mobilizing aspects of our body, not just muscles. Nerve impulses are part of this, for instance. We could describe them as being noisy. They're the dominant forces. They're the ones that we notice the most. And again, like being in a crowded room, when they quieten down, we can notice more what else is going on. And then vision spreads its wings. So the expansion and contraction, chest and your ribs. You may notice you're breathing quite naturally, integrating with the movement. One more time. And then push away. Once again, a little bit of an expansion, not as much as with vision spreads its wings, but your elbows do go out a little bit. So when we go to push forwards, it's not just the arms, not even just our weight moving forward, although that's a really important part of it. But this patterning of expansion and contraction in all the soft tissue, then the energy in the body, all focused into this movement forwards. This is a very natural process. If you've ever gone to push open, say, a door or a gate that has been sticking for a while, and unbeknown to you, somebody's already fixed it, chances are the door will go crashing back because you're expecting, anticipating, having to push quite hard. So our body naturally follows our expectations and our intentions. Then sit back, turn towards one foot, step out, plant the foot. With these three elements changing sides now, body, mind, and energy. Talk about them as though they're separate. They're not really, because they overlap with each other. These are the three treasures of Tai Chi. You want them to harmonize with each other so that rather than thinking of them as three separate things, they become different aspects of the one thing. Now put back, roll your hands into a hollow fist. Now, concentrate on. So this harmonization is one of the one of the aspirations in Tai Chi. In Chinese medicine, that sense of harmony is a key element in our well-being. Remembering our starting point, still important to be aware of the posture. It's no use imagining, if you like, a flow of movement in an area which is restricting movement. It's not going to be enough on its own. But it might be that in having the intention to flow, we suddenly realize, oh, there's a blockage there. That might bring us back to awareness of posture, for instance. Now, from this position forwards here, open your fingers and visually spread its wings. Coming forwards and then change into pushing wave. And from here, change into punch with presence. So we have these three movements, all using the same key element of our weight, moving forwards and backwards and everything that's involved in that. But also displaying, becoming more aware of subtle changes and those patterns of expansion, contraction in the body. And then opening your fingers, winding out and back, and finishing with the push and wave movement. One of the developments in Tai Chi over a period of time when we're practicing is the tendency for the movements to increasingly come from within. So the way I've been talking, the external movement, the movement that you're copying, the choreography of the movement, if you like, actually begins to guide our attention inside so that we begin to recognize different responses within the body. But there comes a point where those responses, as I've just described them, actually become the things that initiate them. They're the building blocks of the bigger movements. Yeah, here, turning your hands apart. Polishing the table, turn, extend, feel that extension again through your spine and out through your arms and your fingers. and Shanti. The significance of that, what we might call internalization of the movements, movement generating the movement from within, or is that those are the elements that are most likely to respond to intentionality, to the images that we use, to the ideas that we have, to the memories of this once we get used to doing the movements. One more in each direction. So far, all the movements we've done have involved the weight movement. We feel a very clear and important mechanical element here. It becomes a lot more subtle at this point, turning your hands palm up, a gentle pressure downwards through your hips and your feet, creating that same extension, lengthening through your spine. And with that, this wave-like movement up through your body, and then feet and hips, they're almost so your shoulders are going up and your arms follow that movement up here, hips sinking down, drawing your shoulders down. By exaggerate, this is a very subtle process, but it's like I'm going to stand up. See how my head goes up, my elbows follow, and my hands follow that. And then going down, boom, boom, boom. That was way too big a movement, and I was tensing up as I did that. That's how it feels within the body. It's accumulation, small changes, small movements. Turning your hands outwards so your fingers pointing away from your body. Wild goose. We begin to understand, begin to practice these things in the simplest of movements. Gradually learning to apply them in some more challenging circumstances. Here, lifting your arms up like this, you may notice your arms start to ache fairly quickly. But what if we didn't think about lifting our arms? What if the intention here is to feel that expansion coming up from the feet and the hips and pushing your arms away from your body? They would naturally swing up. And then parting the clouds. So sinking into your hips, feeling the push up, pushing your elbows out, feeling how that draws your hands and your fingers around, and then coming down. We go forward slightly here, just so that our hands go. So we feel again the movement building from within, building from the ground. Now letting your hands drop down to your sides, bringing your attention to one side. That same sense of pushing down and expansion. Same thing, your elbow drawn up this time, just letting your hand go straight up, wind around. Yeah, dragon pucks the stars from the start. To the sides. Feeling the extension all the way up through the side of your body, your hip, your fingers. Oh, there's an elastic band there again, extended out. You're going to let it slowly time on each side. And then bring your hands just slightly touching the side of your hips and extending upwards. Expanding, contracting, bringing your hands and your attention back to your center, and then expanding this time, directing your hands out. Zoom. Please. Smooth rotation as your arms push out, up, spiraling quality through the arms. And then front foot out, the heel down, ease forwards. Again, feeling the lengthening through your back and your spine. And then feeling the contraction, feeling the push out, the expansion in the front of it. This is scooping the seam. As your hands drop down this time, roll them into a hollow fist. Go forwards, but in the sense of your head pushing upwards. Drawing your arms in. It's like expansion and then a contraction. Chest and the ribs as well. This is grasping the tiger's ears. Don't grip tightly. And this is quite a tricky movement. This movement, slight rotation in the shoulders, that swinging of your arms up. Quite difficult to maintain the softness of the movement. Changing sides, extending the other foot, sweeping the same, and you look at the sky. And then grasping the tights. Good. And then coming back and come back to this sitting posture. Take a couple of slow, deep breaths. And again, just try and get a sense for your experience of this. Much used to label it. I mean, I mentioned the idea of spaciousness before. Well, for you, it might have a different context. It can be quite useful to have that label that evokes the different qualities that we're trying to cultivate. Then Rubbing your hands together again. The fan. Once again, tapping over your face. Over your head and neck. Down on one shoulder. Your arm. The other side. The upper part. The belly. And the neck. Your heels up. Just getting the muscles of your legs a little bit activated before we try and stand on them. And then circle. And back down. Good. Now standing. So we want to reproduce these qualities in our standing activities. Clearly, without a chair there, structurally, it's going to be different. But the feel is going to be the same. And feeling can lead into intention. For instance, you know, if when you finish the class, you decide you want a cup of tea, then you probably, you know, if you're at home and you're in your own kitchen, then you probably won't have to think too much about it. You go in, you know where the tea is, you know where the kettle is, you know where the mugs are, and so on and so forth. Then you can make a cup of tea. If you're in a strange house, or if you'd rearrange the kitchen a little bit, the intention would still be there. You might have to think about it a little bit, but there will still be a strong lead from your intention. So as we stand, we're trying to maintain the intention to feel whatever it was you labeled it as. I'm going to use the term spaciousness again, particularly in the upper part of the body. We can also bring into that an awareness of posture. This time, we want an upright line from shoulder to hip, and hopefully from there down to our ankle. We're not tilted forwards here, for instance, so that gravity is working to sort of draw our weight down through our legs. If we're leaning forwards without the feet there, we're going to stumble forwards. So there's a structural difference here. Equally, obviously, perhaps our legs are working harder, and so on and so forth. Just trying to have your weight slightly forwards in your feet. Let your hips drop back. Let your center of gravity drop. Remember that feeling of your hips sinking into the chair. And imagine they're doing the same thing, sinking down towards your ankles. And think of the intention as an instruction to your body, just as the intention to make a cup of tea instructs your body, and it then goes off and performs certain acts. Obviously, this is going to take practice and cultivation to do that. So we're trying to maintain that, letting your hips sink back and down, and then pushing. So chances are we will lose this posture, those qualities fairly regularly. Again, I wouldn't want to underestimate the significance of the physical structure. That is always going to be important. At the same time, what we can do is just every now and then make space to, again, intentionally reproduce those qualities that we labeled a few minutes ago. Maybe at the top of the movement here. And then again, the lower part. You will also find, in my experience, that bringing that spotlighted intention just here and here, again, gathers our attention in. then not only do we benefit from this physically, but that gathered attention brings with it quality of calmness, of stillness. Time. And then hands. Now, turn one foot out, step forward with the other foot. Keep the width of your step. Don't make it too long a step. And once again, begin to transfer your weight. But once again, noticing the very subtle, what we might think of as interim stages to begin with. Our weight moves, but then there's an intention to settle into the back foot. We push ourselves forwards as we arrive in the front foot. There's that moment of stillness, and the intention once again to settle, to reproduce that same quality that we labeled. I labeled it as spaciousness. Chinese term Zhongding translates to central equilibrium. One of the images for central equilibrium is the mountain. The mountain has this quality of stillness, strength about it. Mountains, the foundations, the roots of the mountains go quite deep. Quite hard to knock over a mountain. So there's a quality of stability there. But there's also an openness and a dynamic quality about the mountain. Again, we choose the label, we choose the image that is most useful to us, most immediate to our experience. Without actually necessarily rejecting, you might think, well, the mountain doesn't mean much to me, but maybe it will come to be something at some point. Now, as we go back and we settle the root in the back foot, we raise the front toes. Same thing here, as you go forwards, it's actually your back knee pushes in, your heel comes up. And as you do each of these, there's a slight extra shift and a sense of settling a bit more into your supporting leg. The intention being to find these qualities of stability, spaciousness, stillness. Not in the chair this time. No chair there. Not even on both legs, but over one leg or in one leg. And then bring your foot in, step out, heel, ball of the foot, plant the foot, move forwards. And back, it's ball of your foot, then your heel, and then planting. Still aware of posture, of structure. These are the fundamentals of the art. It's tempting to think, oh, well, I've done that, I can move on. But we rely on these fundamentals on the other side. Forwards, transferring the weight, giving yourself that moment to settle so that this becomes habitual to us. And ultimately, I'm talking about these as separate stages. But the phrase in Tai Chi is that we seek the stillness within the movement. Raising the toes and the heel. Give a moment just to check your posture. All the good intentions in the world won't make you immune to the laws of physics. Stepping in. But don't regard that as a chore. Oh, I better check my posture. Bringing your attention back to that physical posture is something that also brings you back to this quality of stillness in your mind, calmness. And step through. You go either forwards or backwards, depends where you have the room. And then going back. Have your right foot forward. Start from your back foot. Move forwards as you settle into the front foot, your arms swinging through. Again, fisherman casting it. Remember, one way or another, you'll just have the intention to push your arms forward a little bit. This time, as you go into your back foot and you settle, turn to your right. Still pushing your arms away from the body. This time, go out to the side, a little bit more like the wild goose that we did earlier. This is Wind Blows the Willows. Then your left foot forwards. Same two exercises. Fisherman cast the net. And wind blows. One part of your body is in motion. Your whole body is in motion. Your whole body is engaged with that one way or another. Combining this with stepping that we did earlier. Again, you can only go forwards or backwards. I'm going to have to go forwards, of course. Go into the front foot, bring your foot in, step through. This is dragonfly skins. Maybe raising your legs, maybe. And then fine. And bring. Go back to your chairs. And just to remind people, we haven't realised that there won't be a class, there won't be any classes next week. So that will be the what's it, about the 26th, isn't it, of August. There won't be a class. And then we'll be back the The final exercise, embrace tiger, return to the mountain, coming back to that central equilibrium. I think a lot of these qualities that I'm talking about, particularly that gathered quiet attention, really are very elusive. We lose them very easily, and there's much in our lives that draws us away from them. But it's no surprise when we lose it. But we can actually learn to come back to it, having experienced it, and having recognized its value. From that gathered attention, there's an intention to move our body in a particular way, for instance, in the way that we've been doing. But again, these are two-way processes, because the movements within the body remind us to bring our attention in. I mentioned earlier that quite often the first thing we realize is that there's a tightness, a blockage somewhere within. And now looking at that quietening process, coming back to this posture, this state, not just a physical posture of central equilibrium. Embrace time to return to the mountain. There's again an expansion outwards, this time bringing your arms around as though you're going to hold a ball against your chest, drawing in, and then just feeling, releasing the contracting patterns in your body, returning your hands to the original position. And with this sense of that you're sort of gathering your thoughts in, gathering your attention in, and just bringing them down, grounding, centering for a moment. And again, just finding the things that are most immediate to you, most useful to you. And just sort of store them away so that they're available to you some other point during the day. Whether that be the physical sensations, the image of the mountain, or one more time. And thank you very much, everybody. So we'll be back in this time slot Tuesday week. Thank you very much. Bye for now.